Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Moving into the Future. Today, I am joined by Brian Bowers, where he's the Chief Revenue Officer at Precision Facilities Group. Brian, how are you today?
Doing well, Jack. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. We got to spend a lot of time this week at the OMA annual conference out in Scottsdale, your place of residence, and appreciate you showing me around, first of all. But one of the things I think myself and a lot of other people learned at that conference is the impact that PFG, just to make it easier on myself, is having on our group and the industry as a whole. How's that been for you, with the quick development and growth that you've seen over there?
Well, when we left our former employer in August of 20, right in the middle of COVID, that obviously wasn't the most opportune time to start a brand new fledgling company that relies on capital and in operational expense and spend in the commercial real estate business. So right out of the gate, it was much more challenging than we had planned. And but since we're 2 years old now, so this past year has just been some exponential growth, and primarily driven by so many of the relationships that we've made in 2 years of being involved in the OMA organization. But we were able to take for those of us, the five of us that started PFG, in the industry, we're the old guys now. We started back in 2002, 2003 with a former employer that we kind of spun a company off and started up really what became Workplace Services, just from seeing an opportunity in the market as the JLLs and the CBREs and Cushmans and Colliers all grew, and the outsourcing world started growing very fast, and companies wanted uniform, standardized processes, procedures. They wanted every move to look the same, every install or every decom to look the same across their portfolio, anywhere in the country. In our industry, the moving and storage industry is not one that's very quick to change. It's been very slow, and I would dare to say antiquated just in its thinking in terms of what it could be to their commercial clients. And we felt like we had a jump start on it back then, and built a very large company relative to our industry, and had a great run. And then we just decided we needed to control our own future and our destiny, and some things changed in that organization, and we decided to start PFG. And for anybody that started a new company, the challenges that come with that, and we've experienced every one of them, and come out 2 years later with some tremendous growth. And we knew we could get there. It was just around just getting traction, and we had the expertise. We built some great technology around that, and it was technology built just by going through the fire for 20 years and understanding what was needed in order to provide that true value and visibility and validation to our clients. And so we built that and got our processes in order, and really been able to take off.
Yeah, and that's an interesting part. You said a couple interesting things there. One, first and foremost, that needs to be emphasized very much is the moving industry is antiquated. Always has been. I think people like you and people like myself too are working to change that. But when you are disrupting an industry and creating a tool that can be used to simplify processes and standardize processes, because again, you're absolutely right. When I was at Indeed handling moves globally, that was one of the keys for me to do my job easily, was making sure that it was standardized globally, no matter where we were, whether it was Singapore, New York, Austin, Scottsdale, wherever, the move was done the same way each time. When you're creating a technology that is meant to simplify and disrupt the process of moving, how does that look like from square one, and like the development process? Because that's one of the things that I find to be so challenging, is developing it from its seed and then building it up from there. How did you go about that at PFG?
Well, again, we used experience. We had worked with, when you do this business for a long time, you work with multiple clients' technology on that end, as well as as you become a large organization, you have to have your own internal. And some of those times you can make them talk, you can make them communicate. Sometimes you can't. And so when you see 5, 6 different systems over a period of, a couple of decades, and you work with them, you see all their challenges. And sometimes I think people think technology, or they build technology for the sake of building technology. Right.
Exactly.
And it doesn't solve an issue, and you can overcomplicate it
difficult
so fast.
Right.
And so what we wanted to do was build something that was user friendly. We've had systems in the past that we've worked with, and you give them to a client, they never open it up. You don't see one login. And so we wanted to be able to make it something that was easy from their phone, especially with COVID. Everybody's remote now. They can't just walk around an office and watch progress happen. And so we built something they could see from their phone, they could see from their desktop or whatever mobile device they were using, and watch things happen in a real-time basis and see that a project was being accomplished, that a decom of a building that nobody was in, that you're telling them that you're getting through these steps, that what they really was happening. They can see it. They can see a video clip. They can watch it live. They can just see that pictures of progress as it's happening, and not stress. So they can go to happy hour on Friday afternoon and enjoy themselves, and not worry all weekend that project's getting done.
Absolutely. And for our listeners who don't know, Precision Facilities Group offers technology called remote control. I call it remote personally, and Brian just said the tagline that I think I coined, which is everybody's remote. Brilliant, but you guys can use that as you please. But that's what it allows for them, is it essentially allows clients, no matter where they're positioned in the world, to see what's happening on site of a move in a certain market and how it's being done with up-to-date progress, whether that's moving a box, whether that's taking a picture of an area. And not only that too, but it also allows for questions to be answered very easily as well. I've used it myself, where there will be like a certain station of items or boxes, and we take a picture of those items and put a quick question: are these moving? Are these being disposed? Where are they going? And the client can answer that very easily, or at least pass it on to the person who can answer that. So that's a type of communicative tool that remote control allows to simplify and streamline the process. Because again, as we delve into this world of national accounts and global accounts, and what OMA is doing as a whole to really corner that market and innovate that market and service, technology like remote control offers so much. And you said something important about simplifying it. That is key too, because this is technology that you're giving to a project manager and teaching them, not necessarily on the fly, but before the move, how to use. And it is very easy to do. And once it's over, you can hand it over to the client, and they have that data and all of that information. And that's another key point of all of this too, is the information process. How has that helped you and your clients with certain SLAs and KPIs and things like that? Because that's a thing that a lot of movers in our world and our competitors talk about, but they don't do a very good job of delivering on. How has remote helped you guys make that process easier and more intuitive to everything going on, and simple to comprehend and grow from?
I think it goes back to getting your teeth kicked in for a lot of time when you first start in this industry, and learning to speak the client's language, right? So, and these are all things that we failed at early on, man. I've sat in some ugly meetings early on when we had really kind of outsold something that we weren't ready to perform. Conceptually, we knew what we should do, but we weren't ready from a process or procedure standpoint. And we got our teeth kicked in, right? And because of that, you learn, you get better. You learn to speak your client's language, and then you become the easy button. So once you, it's kind of a trite phrase to use, but it's really what we become, and why we're able to have longtime clients that just, you're not getting put out to RFP every single time, or they're not asking for a bid and putting you against 14 movers, and you're doing cattle calls and walking around, and really it's not adding any value to anybody, right? So that's really what it's become, is that we can, through process, through technology, through knowledge and experience of all those things, you build a tool that the KPIs are built into the tool, the SLAs are built into the tool. So at any point, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, your client already has that information. And then we create a dashboard so that it's all rolled up. So if you've got a client that really doesn't want to look at all the detail, they're high level, they've got multiple projects going on. This is not their only one. So in one of our chief responsibilities as a workplace services provider is to be a third arm to that project manager, to make them scalable.
Right.
So they don't have to worry about all the little details of a move or a decom. I mean, they're dealing with much higher level, architectural GC construction going on. Our industry typically is a rounding error at the end of a project.
Right.
Right. But we're the last face, we're the last touch of that project. And we can make or break, the client's perception of that entire project based upon how we perform. And whether somebody's remote, whether they're on site, whatever it is, they want information. They want to know, they want the confidence to know that it's going to be taken care of, it is taken care of, and they can watch it happening in progress and know that everything is staying on schedule. So that's really, those SLAs and those KPIs are all delivered within the technology. So it's not a afterward step that you've got to go back and recreate.
Absolutely. And again, you said something very important, is the moving process is the last piece to the puzzle every single time, whether it's a simple office move or a new office opening or whatever it may be. It's always that last piece, and it can make or break the entire thing. And that's why, when you're choosing partners, having a tool like remote control, a lot of times, and from what I've been understanding, speaking to people at the conference, it's kind of making it a no-brainer for a lot of end users when we can bring in this technology, proprietary technology for you. It's a game changer in that sense. And I wanted to get back to something because I'd like to hear about it. Why don't you tell me one time when you kind of outkicked your coverage and got ahead of yourself a little bit there? Because I've been there too, and I think we've all had those stories, especially in this industry. What happened there? Because again, this, part of being in this industry is getting your teeth kicked in. It's what allows you to grow and stay. It's how many times can you get punched in the face and stay on your feet, and not go down. So I could imagine being as smart as you are, it's happened. And what was that like?
Yeah, the very first, I'm gonna give you just one real instance because it's stuck in my head because of just the way this client talked to me the first time it happened. But there's a term out there, it doesn't get used much anymore, but it was very simple in the facilities and construction world, is vinyl composite tile, VCT. And it was the very first really large account for a bank in Columbus, Ohio, that we had won. And I went to a project meeting, and our client, who was very, very highly charged individual, type A individual, and hadn't gone through sensitivity training at that point in the early 2000s. And she kept saying VCT. And I said, what is VCT? And she looked at me like I had 14 heads and just chewed my butt up and down. How could you possibly be in this industry and not know what VCT is? And I just felt it's one of those times where you just feel like 2 inches tall. And it's stuck with me. It's like, it gives me, every time I, see tile on the floor in a commercial building, it gives me the EBGBs. It's just one of those things that keeps coming back. But the big macro one, Ann Rovat, who's my partner at one of my partners at PFG, we were somehow, by the grace of God, won a contract in 2005 with JLL for a very, very, very large corporate campus in Seattle for a tech company. And it's made a lot of software over the period of time. And somehow, I have no idea how we won this. It never should have. A little company in Cincinnati, Ohio, wins the largest corporate campus in America, moving 50,000 headcount a year. So we went from our friend Tom Hinckley and I being on the road and doing a couple $1 million worth of business to, hey, we just won this thing that was $1 million a month in revenue. And Ann and I go out there to set this thing up, and it's just her and I. Okay, here we go. And we get out there with no clue, really not even knowing what we had bid off on. We didn't have a lot of volumes and those things. So we get out there with absolutely no clue what we bid on. And all of a sudden we're now hiring 100 people. We're moving, again, on the pace of 50,000 head count a year, 200 work orders a day, no technology, no technology. Our processes were in our head. Okay, we knew how to do it, but nothing was documented. And having to fake through a 45-day transition and be ready to go in 45 days, literally, with that kind of volume, and build an entire move company. We didn't have trucks, we didn't have equipment out there. We had to put this all together in that period of time. Zero sleep. I mean, trying to, that was really our first experience with somebody saying KPIs and SLAs and having to be really measured. No clue. Pulled it off. It was a rough 6 months. I'm not saying we didn't get critiqued quite a lot there for the first 90 to 120 days, but we pulled it off and turned it into a success story. But it was just one of those things that it never should have happened. It's somehow somebody in procurement made a decision they never should have made, but it really benefited us and then launched us into this whole workplace services world of really learning what it means.
Right. And that's a testament to you and Ann and anyone else who was involved in that. I mean, you guys are two of the brightest in the industry, and Tom as well, he's involved in that. You guys certainly know the industry, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about the conference. Well, I should say about the organization as a whole, is the amount of smart people, experienced, seasoned people in that room is significant, especially for a young person like me. I eat it up, and I think that. I've always come to you and Tom and Ann, for advice and that guidance, and things like that. What did you think about this week? How long have you been going to these conferences?
So this is my second annual.
Okay,
I've hit multiple sales events, been to the board meeting that the board does in Key West for a couple of years, which obviously if you get a chance to go to Key West and you can hang out with cool people, then you're not going to miss that one, even though I'm not on the board. But you get lucky and get invited, and you go down and have some fun with some really awesome people. This organization, I mean, now we're going to hit $50 million in revenue, member to member or OMA direct sales by the end of this year. Far and ahead. I think that was their 2025 goals, 2024 goals. 2025 goals was to hit 50 million. So we're going to do it 3 years ahead of schedule. I think, as an organization, it's just hitting its stride. Members are now really starting to understand how to collaborate. Another thing, I mean, movers historically, other than being antiquated, we're always very territorial, right?
Yep.
It's our market, and they see their market share as being whatever is in that city that they're in, versus looking at it as, hey, your clients are national and global clients. You've got to be a national and global provider. And people are wanting to get there now, and they're understanding it. And people are now understanding how to collaborate, that, I can work with you and I can compete with you. Right. And we can do all these things and do them right, and still everyone succeed. Right. Exactly. And while we may compete on an account that's based in New York, or it might be based in California, and you're based in New York and I'm in Scottsdale, when we collaborate, I'm going to share technology, I'm going to share experience, I'm going to do all those things, and then we might compete next week on a different project, and you may use some of that, but in terms of the experience or knowledge that you get or I get from you, and those things are all okay. And that was been our goal before, and then especially since we came into the OMA organization, is what value can we pump into this with no expectation of return, just because it will come back, right? Just like it'll come back to you if you just keep sticking value out there into the system. And they've had a board of directors since we came on, and people like that the executive director Doug Hollingshead and Don Hyndman, Peggy Coakley, Brett Bettina, Jim Brown, that all understand this, just tremendously collaborative people that run great businesses, and you'd be happy to follow and work with every day. And so we've really embraced that. We're extremely fortunate to be part of the organization, aligned with the organization, and can't wait to just continue to do whatever we can to help it grow, because it's very quickly become the best industry model of an association or organization that I've ever seen in our industry.
Yeah, I completely and totally agree. And I was talking about this week as well. I was introduced to OMA. I had known about OMA in about 2014. And this when I was first starting at Indeed at that time. And I was responsible for bringing on a global move partner. And I remember I called Jeff, who I never worked with before, but knew, and I knew of OMA, and they were in OMA. And I called them up. I'm like, listen, I have this opportunity to be a global move partner. And it would have been huge for them at the time. And I was like, I can get you in the room. I think this is what I need. And I knew this as an end user, as somebody who had been in the industry prior. I was like, I need resources in all of my markets. I can set up the processes where we can work together on the processes, but I need to make sure I have the resources in all of these markets that Indeed is in, right? And I remember I got in the room, it was Doug, Jeff, Anthony, I think Kevin McCarthy was the VP at that time, and Jim Brown might have been there as well. And I remember our head of procurement, she was a really talented lady. She was based in Austin. And one of the questions that she just kind of pounded them with was, okay, OMA has all of these resources and everything, but how much money does OMA actually have? And at that time, it wasn't anything. They had no funds in OMA. And she's like, listen, like, we're going to be doing millions of dollars of work. Like, what happens, like, if you guys can't sustain that? We have, certain net payment days. And, they tried to answer around it, but as a procurement person, she's like, it would be simply irresponsible. I wouldn't be doing my job well, and to bring OMA on. And now you look at that less than 10 years later, and we're an organization that's going to do over $50 million of work this year. Yeah. That's significant. And to think too, within a 3-year span, that's gone from about 10 million or so to that 50 million. That's like a fast growth company, or at least the beginning of a fast growth company. When I say fast growth, I'm talking like technology fast growth, where I've been to, and I've seen it at Indeed, I've seen it at WeWork, which isn't necessarily the best example, but like that type of thing. And frankly, it's all grassroots too, for the most part. It's not like we're getting funding or anything like that. It's a small business.
All organic growth.
Yeah, exactly. And like, that's extremely powerful and extremely exciting for me as somebody who's kind of young. The foundation that's been set is really significant. And that's why, technology like remote and all of the resources at PFG between yourselves and what you're working on there is significant for me. And then everything that's being done on a board level and things like that, it's really, really exciting. And, I got to speak at the conference as well, as far as in the breakout and selling national accounts. You said it yourself. That's really what I'm trying to get through to people is, it doesn't matter what market you're in. You could be in the smallest market. National accounts are everywhere. And, it doesn't matter if it's directly in your market or outside your market, or you can call on these people and you can develop a program or a process promoting OMA and PFG and our other AMP partners too, for that matter, and be like, here's what I can do for you. And I can make your life significantly easier with these tools. How are you going into a lot of your clients now too, specifically, since you have a little more freedom? What are those conversations like? Are you working off of a lot of existing relationships, or are you kind of, starting at the bottom and just kind of, prospect?
Yeah, I mean, we were hampered in our first 2 years by a previous employer contract. And so we had to start from zero. So there was, we had industry relationships and referral relationships, but we couldn't do one bit of business with any prior client. So it was actually a great experience in getting uncomfortable again. I can say I definitely had gotten comfortable. It was, things were pretty much on cruise control until we decided to leave. And then you kind of throw yourself back into this, like, wow, do I really want to start cold calling again? Well, I have to, because I have to survive. Right. And so learning to do that again and get uncomfortable and start, just start like a brand new salesperson in this industry, and start building those things. Now, since we've been free a little bit here for 60 days or so, yeah, those relationships were still there and they're all strong, but we live in a world of procurement now, right? And you don't just get, our clients are typically all Fortune 500 or above, and those contracts don't come easy. Procurement people don't just say, okay, hey, yeah, we did business with you at another company. Here's your contract. They want less contracts, not more.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a challenge. It's a struggle. And so, we've been fortunate enough that we did have 5 people that have a lot of experience and know where these businesses are. And it's forced us to change, get better, and think in different ways. And while it took us longer than we expected, we're back on track to where we thought we would be. And going into year 3, we're in a really strong position. But yeah, that's really what it's been about, is just getting uncomfortable, and then, okay, we kind of changed the industry before, and then we got a little comfortable. Now, what are we going to do it next, and be something different in the market? And the OMA world has helped us with that, because now we can be something different in the market. Plus, how do we collaborate with the 50 some OMA members, and finding people in there that want to get to that next level, not just be a local provider within the organization, but hey, let's go. You've got these companies in your market, you've got these people, but you're not selling to them nationally. You might be doing work in your city, but you're not doing their national work. Let's collaborate. Let's go do that. We know how to get you there. And then everybody benefits. So that's how we've approached the OMA relationship, is what value can we put in to help everybody to, rising tide raises all ships. And so we just wanted to be a part of that and continue to pump that value into the organization. And we've received, that back in spades.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I do too. Like anytime I get a new opportunity in a different market, first of all, and I said this in my breakout, I always look up where that company is headquartered, right? And then I go to the OMA partner in that market and I say, hey, I'm doing this job in such and such city. Have you ever done work for them before? And whatever the answer is, I'm like, well, listen, like we might want to find those people, because I'm going to do a good job here. And then let's figure out how we can, work on this together to get it on a national level. Because that's the end game. Last question. What's it like being, good looking at 50 in Scottsdale? Because I could see myself winding up in that position one day. I really enjoy it out there. What do I got to look forward to out there, Brian?
Well, I would say, in my opinion, life in Scottsdale is the highest quality of living in America. So if you have the ability to get out of town in July and August, early September, I would definitely recommend relocating, Jack.
Oh yeah.
And being a 52-year-old guy, probably a lot of the things that you're going to enjoy about Scottsdale, I'm not partaking in as much, but I'm reasonably sure that you've been here enough to know how enjoyable it can be. But yeah, every day's a party in Scottsdale. You have to choose not to partake and stay home now and then.
Right. Yeah, no, I could see it. I was envisioning myself. I have spent a decent amount of time there in like the last 10 years. And I enjoy it there a lot. And I would definitely be snowbirding. I'd do the New York to Scottsdale back and forth during the summer months.
Yep.
But yeah, maybe one day, as long as I keep working as hard as you, Brian, I'm sure I'll make it there. So, thanks a lot for joining me today. This was fun. Appreciate it. Looking forward to continued growth and, making it happen. The more work we do together, the sooner I'll get down there with you. So let's make it happen.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate the invite.
No, my pleasure. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.